we're trying to go to California. And I don't know where we're at. She goes, well, honey, you're in Eden, Idaho. And I had just remembered that, like, my grandmother lives, I think, in a place called Eden. And I wasn't sure if it was Idaho because I didn't know about directions. I'm not good with maps. And I go, I think my grandma lives in Eden, Idaho. I'm not sure. And she goes, well, honey, what's your grandma's name? I said, Vineyard. She came over and she gives me a side hug and she opens up the creaky old door and she walks out. She goes, you see that road right there? That road right there is your grandma's road. Because you go down that road right there, you're going to run into your grandma's house. It was hard. It's hard to explain, but it was like, if God wasn't there to guide me or help us, we would not have made it home. We were in the desert.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit and I'm an award-winning multi-published author of books in various genres, and right now I'm settling on suspense. You can head over to my website to learn more about me and my projects at artbyruth.com, and you will, if you sign up for my newsletter today, you will get a PDF copy of my Christmas short story, A Christmas Scene, which I think you'll love. So head over to artbyruth.com today to find out about my latest release, Murder at Christmas Tree Village, and my new coloring book and more. That's artbyruth.com. And if you like today's episode, please leave a review, subscribe over at YouTube, and let me know what you think. I'd love to know what you think as we listen to this author. Okay, let's get busy. Jessica Danel. She is an author, mom of 3, and former childcare entrepreneur who built a $1 million preschool business. Wow. And now she is an author. She just released a memoir that I think you are going to find so fascinating. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Jessica Danel talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm super excited to have an author and podcaster new to me, but I'm sure many of you have heard of her. Jessica Danel is here with me today. Welcome, Jess.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, this is exciting. So why don't you start off by telling my listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about your memoir.
Okay. I am a Gen Xer. So I could tell you the age, but then I have to shoot you. No, so I'm a Gen Xer. I've been with my husband 28 years, married 25, and I have 3 kids. I have a stepdaughter, 32, I think, a 24-year-old boy, and son. I guess it's not a boy anymore, and a 15-year-old daughter. And I currently work in broadcast media. That's my day job, but I also have a podcast called Just Saying with Jessica Danel. I wrote a memoir about my crazy life because there's so many crazy things that I've gone through and have happened to me. And I thought, crap, I'm going to put that in a story because no one's going to believe it. It's just out. It's crazy, actually.
Ooh, I look forward to hearing about it. But first, what made you want to get into media?
Well, so in the story, if you read my memoir, you'll see I owned a business and it didn't turn out so great. But after my daughter was born and she hit 3 years old, my husband's like, well, you either have to get a job somewhere else or you have to go back to school. So I decided to go back to school and get my degree. And it was in marketing, business administration, and I got a bachelor's. And then I was like, okay, well, who's going to hire me? Because I'm getting older, and I've only owned my own business. Don't have too much business experience. I have a few sales jobs that I've done in the past, but I've always just owned my own company. And so I decided, that I was going to go work for the man, and found out that going to businesses with your resume in hand isn't as easy as it was when you were younger. Now you have to do everything online. Well, thank goodness I had a degree. It was the first company that basically, not the first company, but the first one that I thought would be the funnest job to have. And so I just started, I was hired for a local television station, and I enjoy the job. It's fun. It's interesting. It keeps me busy, put it that way.
Hmm.
And then I went back and got my master's degree during COVID. So I just decided to do that. And then I ended up getting another position with a radio company. So now I have two jobs at the same time. I do both. I do radio for a radio company, and then I work for a local television station. In
Wow.
addition, in addition to my podcast.
I was going to say, you are busy with kids, working two jobs, and having a podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It
Well,
keeps me
so
off the video games on my phone. I put it that way.
I bet. Wow. Well, so of all books, writing a book and everything, did you think one day, when you were younger, did you ever think, wow, I'm going to write a book someday? Or that just kind of fell into your lap?
Well, it was on my bucket list of things to do. Hence the name of the book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. Writing a story about my crazy life has always just been something I thought about. I always tell people I wear my personality on my sleeves, but I always carry my stories in my back pocket. And I would tell my friends all the time about these crazy things that have happened to me in my life. And they're like, oh my God, that is nuts. You need to put that in a book because that is insane. I can't believe that happened. I'm like, I swear it happened exactly like I'm telling it to you. It's so true. And that is what when you read the book, it's a funny book too. There's a lot of humor in it, but maybe you'll cry because there's some really sad parts. And I think readers will find a little bit of a piece of themselves in my words, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Before we get to your book, though, what made you want to start a podcast?
The book.
So one fed off of the other.
Yeah, because I thought, how am I supposed to get my book out there? And in high school, it's so funny. They always said that I was most likely to be the Steven Spielberg because I would run around my school. I was a school photographer, but I would run around the school with a video camera on my shoulder. Back then, video cameras were quite large, and you had to carry them on your shoulder. And so, because I was always doing videography and things of that nature, and so it and also they said I talk too much, which if you can't already tell by this few minutes in the conversation, I do tend to talk a lot. So it's kind of in my wheelhouse, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those video cameras were big and they had tapes inside of them. And
Right.
now you just use your phone. Isn't that amazing? Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So let's talk about this amazing book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, a memoir. And what made you want to do it as a memoir? What you call it isn't a polished, sugar-coated memoir. It's muddied boots on a kitchen floor. What made you want to do that instead of maybe just writing a fictional story so you could really embellish?
Well, I mean, my true life reads like fiction. I'm serious to tell you. It starts off my first chapter. It's weird because I kind of go in chronological order throughout my life, but except for the very first thing that really stood out to me when I was growing up was when I was 16. My parents put me in a drug rehab when they thought I was on drugs, but I wasn't. I've never done drugs, never. And so it starts there. That's where the story starts. I've gone through so many crazy things. I had a disfigurement when I was younger. Well, I still do. You just can't tell. I had a lazy eye. And so if you ever seen a lot of people where they have one eye that's kind of closed a little bit, mine was pretty serious. So I had surgeries and I was teased a lot. They called me the Popeye girl. And, it's like, I leaned into it. I called chapter 2 the Popeye girl. And I talk about, kind of how was feeling during those times. And it's a little juvenile in the thinking and maybe how you're reading it and how I was silly thoughts that I had. But I kind of wanted to take people on the journey of like when all the things that I had to go through when I was little and you kind of see why I pushed back so much when in my teenage years, what I dealt with when I was younger. Um, I was disciplined very harshly, different than my siblings. I have two sisters and a brother, and I'm the middle. I kind of, them, Jan Brady, the Marsha. That's me in a nutshell. I was always kind of considered like the middle child in our household, but I was disciplined differently. My dad would, when it was time to punish me, he would ask me for if I wanted the belt, the hand, or the hanger, and I had to pick which one I wanted. And but I was the only one in my family that was disciplined in that way. So um, I talk about that. The other thing is also is that I talk it's an underlying story of my mom. So you read a lot of my story, but you're hearing a lot of my mom's story too. And me and my mom did not get along very well. We fought over silly, stupid things. But I wrote the story not realizing that my mom's story was almost more just equally interesting as mine. I didn't realize it till the end of the book, and I look at this book that I wrote, and I realize so much more about myself and my mother and my family. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you have to write a book about yourself so that you understand like why everything happened for a reason. Like things happen the way they're supposed to in God's eyes, I think. And so, but my mom's story is equally interesting. And I talk about a lot of things about my mom in the story. I went to private school and I went to public school, and I talk about the differences. I have a really good circle of friends. We lived in an area called Park Circle. And so I talk about Park Circle, um, being the new girl. I mean, all these things are kind of relatable to a lot of people. And I talk about high school, how wonderful it was. I know a lot of people don't have good experiences, but I had such a great experience in high school, and I wouldn't change a thing. And that's what I called that chapter. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. I talk about losing my virginity. I mean, I go deep, but not. It's not very graphic, but I do talk about it. Um, and you know how like when we were younger, if you're a Gen Xer, we had those after school special things that you'd see on TV, and a lot
The
of times it was a
ABC after school special.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So like at the as some of them were like, okay, I'm gonna beat you up after school, kind of girl, like a mean girl. And then there was this big to do. Well, I had one of those things that happened to me, and it had half the school came to my house. It was just insane. And I talk about that story. It's actually one of my favorite stories because it's funny. I think it's hilarious. And I laugh about it. Then I have a story that I talk about in my book about something that happened to me. And I know a lot of people might not think it's true, but it's absolutely 100% true. I I graduated high school. I have a car my parents gave me, and my parents went out of town, and my girlfriend said, "Let's go to Utah." Now I live in California, and I'm young and stupid. I was like, "Why not? My parents are gone. No one's gonna know. Let's just go." And we go, and then on the way home, this is something I learned about myself, which is crazy, but I suck at directions. I got on the 80 going the wrong direction, and we ended up in Idaho. So we got to Utah, and the next day on the way home, we ended up in Idaho. So don't ask me. I had no money. We were out of gas. We were at a gas station, out of gas, and God saw fit to help two girls, 17 years old, under seven. Well, yeah, I was just 17 actually. Find their way home with money to spare in their pocket, and you will not believe the story. It is absolutely. Well, I'm going to tell a little bit of it. I ended up at the corner of where my great grandma and grandpa live, in the middle of Idaho.
Wow.
It is so crazy. We stop for gas, and I get out of the car, and I'm almost in tears because we have no money, and I'm like, "Where are we?" And I asked the lady at the counter, and I said, I we left Utah. We're trying to go to California, and I don't know where we're at. She goes, "Well, honey, you're in Eden, Idaho." And I had just remembered that like my grandmother lives, I think, in a place called Eden. And I wasn't sure if it was Idaho because I didn't know about directions. I'm not good with maps. I don't know about places. And I asked the lady, I go, Eden? And I go, I think my grandma lives in Eden, Idaho. I'm not sure. And she goes, "Well, honey, what's your grandma's name?" And my great grandma and grandpa is what they were. And I said Vineyard. And she came over and she gives me a side hug, and she wraps her arms around me, and she opens up the creaky old door, and she walks out. She goes, "You see that road right there? That road right there is your grandma's road. All this is all her acreage." She goes, "You go down that road right there, you're going to run into your grandma's house." And so I was on the corner of my grandma's house when we, you know, It was hard. It's
Whoa.
hard to explain, but it was like if God wasn't there to guide me or help us, we would not have made it home. We were in the desert. It was like there's nothing around, nowhere. You couldn't find one store. There wasn't a store in sight for miles either direction. So we didn't know where we were. And I stopped at the one place that found me. My grandma ultimately gave us gas money and food and lemonade. You know how they do. And then we were on our way back home. But
Wow.
I call that my God story because I kind of felt God's guiding hand in that moment. And I
Did you
think
find did you find that that was like a metaphor for the rest of your life? How God
kind of,
you're getting lost and you're on one going in
dude,
one direction and you get lost and now God's directing you?
I swear, dude, like I swear, I have made so many bad choices,
Mm.
small, silly little bad choices that took me in, weird directions, but I always got turned back around. And yeah, like I don't know. I had a hard
Wow.
time adulting when I was because I left the house when I was 17, right after this event. 2 weeks later, a week later, my dad, I walked in the door and he goes, give me your car keys. And so I had to give him my car keys that he just gave me for a week ago for graduation. And it was a used car, but it was still drivable. It was still great. But I had to give him back the car keys until I can pay for my own insurance. And week and a half later, I got my own insurance and moved out before I was 18. So I was out on my own at an early age. And I didn't really have a place to go. And I couch surfed. I had lots of friends, so I was lucky. Not a lot of kids out there have a good friend base, but back in the days, we all had friends, like lots of
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. Before social
Um,
media ruined everything.
yeah, yes.
What
I feel
year
like
was all this happening? When was this
um,
happening?
I I graduated high school in 91.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And then right after I graduated, my sister was still attending, and a lot of my friends were still there. But we had a high school shooting. A, a, a student we knew came back to the school, and it was the first high school shooting almost in America. And it was in 1992, May 1st. It's called the Lyndhurst High School shooting. There was even a movie created by, it's called Johnson High, and there's also another title. It's called Target of Rage. They're the same movie, but for whatever reason, they have two titles. Anyways, it has Henry Winkler in it, Freddie Prince Jr., and guy from Silver Spoons, Ricky Schroeder.
Oh yeah, Rick Schroeder. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they did a movie about it because it was so crazy of a story. But the guy came in, he shot. Well, he killed four, one teacher, three students, and shot like 9 or 10 others, and held 80 kids hostage at the
Wow.
school for like 12 hours. And I talk about this where I was and what I was doing to help. And my mom was sitting with one of the students that was killed, his mother, when they came and told her that he was no longer with us. Later, we found out that he was a hero. The gunman put the gun in front of this young lady, and this kid Beeman, he pushed the girl out of the way and said no, and pushes her. And just as he pushes her, he takes the full blunt of the shot to the head,
Oh my
and he
word.
didn't make it. Yeah, and it was and my mom was sitting with his family as they received the news. And my sister was really close with his cousin, and they were all sitting there. And you can imagine there was a lot. There's a lot to the story, and it's very sad. And everybody in my community, we still kind of commemorate the day on Facebook and give pictures, and it's you still cry about it. It's really hard
Hmm.
not to because the people that were killed, and I talk about that in the book. Um,
Interesting.
but life,
Wow.
I know I'm telling you, there's so much more.
Well, the
Like
bucket
halfway.
list theme, where did the bucket list come from? When did you start this?
Okay, so the reason why the name is called bucket list from because I talk about how I'm hitting some on my bucket list throughout the book, but I was told by my I don't know, my school counselor said pick up, make a bucket list because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And he goes, well, think of things that you want to do throughout your life and what do you want to be when you grow up and all these things. And so I just always remembered like a to-do list. These are things I want to accomplish, my bucket list. And I am from a farming town in Northern California, and we were all in the where I live, it's considered, well, it's the Marysville, Yuba City, which is north of Sacramento. But even I say that, it's not really where I lived. I lived in Linda, and Linda and Olivehurst were like suburbs of those bigger towns. And if you put all the four towns together, it was no more than like 40,000 people. It was kind of small in all areas. But my little town and where my school was in Olivehurst were considered like the low income. We weren't low income, but we were considered low trash and less than. And where everything is, like I said, farming, and redneck just comes from working in the farm, having a redneck, you know, from the
Mhm.
sun. So that's where the name came in. But I just I just wanted to tell all the stories that I think that, different people have a lot of stories in their life and they don't know that they're interesting until someone says, well, like my friends were telling me like they were so interesting. And so I didn't think about them until I put them all together and I'm like, dang, there's a lot in here. Like, I mean,
And
there's a
that's
lot.
good. I mean, you're right, there's mother-daughter dynamics, there's childhood trauma, there's that high school, shooting that happened, and God's
Right.
protection over your life. And so I can definitely see why you wanted to put all of this. And the final takeaway you want readers to have is what? How would you describe that final takeaway?
Well, I don't know. I guess I get this question a lot, but sometimes my thinking always changes. But we all have a story, and I think that it's important for you to. It's a good therapeutic tool to put your story down on paper,
Hmm.
and also you can share things that happen to you and makes people feel like maybe they're not alone going through similar things, or that, oh, I thought you were writing about me when you were talking about all that just sounds like exactly what I felt or thought. And I just want somebody to read it, find it interesting, I don't know, laugh out loud at a lot of the parts, because some of it you just cannot help yourself to laugh at. And it's just a good, honest book. I tell everything in the story is absolutely 100% true, and I don't embellish. And it's just an honest book that you can read by the pool, or on the airplane, or when your kids are at soccer or dance. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
It's just one of those things that you'll giggle a little while you're sitting there. You look around, is anyone watching me giggling? There's not a lot of bad words in it. I don't talk about dirty things. It's
Sure.
it's very. I talk about my faith and my religion, and
Hmm.
I went to Catholic school, and was married in the same church that my grandfather built, that my grandmother ran for 25 years. So I talk about that a little bit in there.
Wow.
I had a Jerry Springer wedding. Like, my family could not get over themselves to let me have a day, for me and my husband, just to have one day. I talk about my crazy family in those instances and how my husband kind of married into it. Um, and then I talk about, I built a business for my living room. I built a family daycare, and then I built that up. I bought a business at a church, built that up, and then I built a 10,000 square foot building with a 30,000 square foot play yard. And it was $1 million business. And I built that all on my own. And then my daughter was born with some heart concerns. Well, she needed open heart surgery. And so my goal was to just keep her alive between the time she was born and to her surgery date. And so I put all my focus on that. And when my landlord wanted to sell the business, I ended up selling my business to him, which was a mistake. There's a lot to it. There's more in the story, but and then I just
Wow.
talk about at the end. I talk about my, well, the other thing I didn't mention too is that I'm a stepmom, and so my husband went through so much with my stepdaughter mom, the bio mom, and so I can relate to a lot of people in the book, using through my book, about like what it means to be a stepmom and when you have to deal with the bio mom in such a way. We were in court so often that, in fact, I went into labor while we were in court.
Oh,
And
no.
I ended up having to drive 4 hours back home to try to deliver at home. And then my husband made it back within like 20 minutes of me pushing out my son. So, because he had to stay in court because the mother would not accept postponement. So, there's just a lot to this. There's just so many different stories in there. And then at the end, I talk about mastering my mistakes, which is like, okay, I learned so much about my mom, and because now I'm a mom and I can reflect back, and I know that God put me in certain situations so that I could be there in a certain way for my daughter, who will continue to have surgeries throughout her whole life, and struggles, with other, she has other she's a complex kid, put it that way. So she has a lot going on. And I feel like, you know, my mom didn't do such a bad job, put it that way. Like I thought, you know what I'm saying? Like all you people out there that have mommies and you're like, my mom sucked. Well, try walking a mile in her shoes. Let me just say.
Exactly. And you can't really appreciate it until you become a mom. And I went through the same thing. I started to learn to appreciate her. Well, wow, this just sounds like an amazing story that I think anybody who picks it up will find themselves within the pages somewhere. They'll be able to relate to a story that you have. And it sounds so amazing. Well, what's coming next? Are you going to just keep plugging along with your podcast and talking about your book, or?
Well, yes, but I don't just talk about my book on my podcast. I also, it's all encompassing families, relationships,
Nice.
moms and dads, and books, because that's what I love now. I'm really finding that I love being an author. I find that it's fun. You know, I can't even watch a movie now without like dissecting like the storyline a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, I do that too. It drives my husband crazy.
And so I'm finishing up a book right now. It's a fiction. It's a romance novel. It's kind of has a twist of thriller in it a little. And yeah, so I don't really know. I haven't like settled on a name, but it's related to like fire, like firemen, and the story's about an ER nurse and a so.
And I need ER nurse and a what? I'm sorry.
Hot fireman. Yeah.
We just got a lot of attention from my listeners. Well, that sounds great.
Super hot.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you. Well, Jess, it sounds like you have a blessed life now, still full of challenges, but whose life isn't full of challenges, right? So remember, listeners, head over to Amazon and get Bucket List from a Redneck Girl by Jessica Danel. And I love the tag. I may not be a superstar, but I twinkle brightly. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I wish you nothing but the best of success. Wow, you're so busy. So I'm honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and my listeners today. Thank you, Jessica.
Well, I thank you for having me on. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow, that was so fun to listen to Jessica Danel talk about her book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, a memoir about her crazy life. And I know you're going to find yourself somewhere in those pages. So pick up your copy today and leave her a review. Let her know what you think of her amazing memoir. And take a look at her podcast too, Just Saying. My thanks to Jessica for joining me today. And I hope that you've been encouraged to try a memoir. It can be very therapeutic to write about your life stories. I know it can also be a little stressful too, as you're bringing up past memories and trauma and people in your life that are gone. But it can also be very therapeutic, as Jess was saying it was for her. So keep going forward on your writing journey, no matter what genre you're trying. Try and write something every day. Thanks for listening, and until next time, God bless.